it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. As you can see, there's 3 squares on the screen here. Myself and Paddy are delighted today to be joined by Rob Warner from the Spark Academy, and Rob is going to chat to us today about the Aston Villa kit. But before we do that, we want to get into Rob's back catalogue because, Rob, you know, you've had a series CV of shirts, not only just nice shirts that have been designed, also winning shirts as well, Rob. So thanks very much for popping on the show, and want to talk to us about some of those wonderful shirts that you've designed.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me. So I started designing kits professionally in 2001, working for Puma across in Germany. And one of my first tasks was to add sleeves to the Cameroon sleeveless jersey. So it had already been designed, it had already been banned, and we had to figure out how to get sleeves onto it without them looking like sleeves for the World Cup. So that was the first challenge that I faced. And then since then, I'd went on to design kits for Lazio, Monaco, the Puma teams at the World Cup in 2006, including the winners Italy. Also around that time, I did some work on track and field for Puma. So the Jamaican Olympic team uniforms for the Beijing Olympics. So when Usain Bolt first started doing his celebration in Beijing, I designed all of that stuff for him. And then after 6 years at Puma, I moved back to the UK and worked for Umbro for 5 years, where teams included obviously the Republic of Ireland, England, Manchester City. So it was my design team that designed the City shirt for the infamous Aguero moment. And worked my way through across all manner of teams, met some incredible people. And then my final kit, ironically, was for the Canadian national team just before I moved to Canada to work for a yoga brand. But I'm back in the UK now to try and get back to some sort of dampness and coldness and all the sort of things that English people normally thrive in. Only this week it's absolutely not playing out like that at all.
There was an absolute laundry list, or should I say shopping list, I suppose, really, of successful teams there. But I suppose the one thing that kind of is close to my heart, and close to Paddy's heart, was you mentioned about that Cameroonian jersey. And I'll never forget waking up at like 3:15 crazy in the morning to watch Cameroon and Ireland in that World Cup, the 2002 World Cup. And I think it was Matty Holland from about 35 yards snuck one into the bottom corner. And I remember Kevin Kilban came on at left back. As you can see, Ireland have been a nation who've had some fantastic footballers. Listen to the names we're mentioning.
I remember Matty Holland being linked with Villa for years and years, and we never signed him.
He made a career out of being linked with Villa. Yeah. I think that's what happened. And we never signed him.
Carlton Palmer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got Mark Kinsella instead, so we got the Aldi version. But it was, that game was something else. I remember that. I remember our local football team had just won a cup the night before. And I remember getting maybe about an hour and a half sleep between celebrating winning that cup and then going to the game afterwards. And then when I arrived onto the pub, I completely forgot, because I worked in the pub. When I arrived on the pub, I completely forgot I was working. That was a tough morning. I can guarantee you that. That was one of the toughest mornings work I ever did. Yeah,
everybody getting the wrong change.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think anyone mattered because there was because of the way Ireland performed in that game. But no, that was a really iconic shirt, I think, really, because it was one of the first kind of, how would I say, figure hugging shirts that came in, and it looked amazing. And obviously, because it was sleeveless, it was a real eye catcher. And even when the sleeves went on, it became a kind of a staple of Puma. And just to touch on it there as well, was that something that Puma wanted to bring in, was more kind of the muscle fit shirts at that time, or was that something that they've been doing beforehand? Because that's one of the first ones that I kind of remember Puma bringing in that kind of had that kind of design.
Yeah, it was. So the sleeveless part of it was created just before I arrived at the company. So that was my predecessor had worked on that. But it was very much part of a strategy where, I mean, if you even look, say, 2 years before that, and going back to thinking of Mark Kinsella in the would it have been maybe Diadora at the time with the Rover sponsor across the front, and the things were massive, at that sort of time. Unless I'm getting my eras mixed up, but even then there was a lot of big shirts prior to kind of 2001, 2002, and that was when shirt pulling started to become a real issue for the players. So it wasn't so much of a stylistic thing for us. It was really looking at giving players a competitive advantage. So we totally thought about that, and it worked well with Cameroon because they'd got such a small group of players to choose from. You kind of knew who was going to be in the squad every time, and they all looked amazing in skin tight jerseys. So that helped. Whereas when we got to 2006 and the brief was get players to the ball faster, so we focused on aerodynamics and lightweight and all that sort of stuff. And one of the best ways to make a human aerodynamic is to obviously have them in no shirt or have it be skin tight. But we had to think about the teams that we were kitting out, and at that time, one of our best hopes for a trophy we thought was the Czech Republic. So obviously the skin tight shirts look great on the likes of Samuel Eto'o or Rigobert Song and those sorts of guys. Skin tight shirts on Thomas Rosicky and Jan Koller, not so much. So
I don't think you can get skin tight on Jan Koller. He was so sweetly.
You have to literally paint it on him, shrink wrap it. But yeah, so now it was a choice that was based on giving the athletes an advantage.
Yeah, and there's a whole other podcast I'm sure we could do on science and I suppose everything that goes into even I suppose the material of the shirt, because God, like you remember, you could, and I know rugby is I don't know if you did any rugby jerseys or anything like that, but when you think about rugby jerseys, it used to be big, thick, hard cotton, so you couldn't rip them when they were in a tackle, and now they're as durable as any other, but they're still very light, and obviously that's to do with performance and so on. So what was somebody call it? What did somebody call it? Was it accessory doping or something like that back in the day? I remember there was some strange phrase like that. And you mentioned as well about Jamaica there and Usain Bolt, because some of their stuff, you see some runners, and maybe it's probably more long distance runners, and you can correct me on this, that they actually have baggy stuff, when they're running, and they've got stuff hanging off them. Like I've never seen a 100-meter runner that doesn't have a massive chain. Like when you talk about aerodynamics and stuff like that, is that all something that's taken into account even for those short sprint distances as well?
Yeah, it is. Especially so with the sprint events. So whether it's athletics or football, the sprints are typically quite short. So that does make a big difference. The other aspects, and you mentioned the chains and stuff that the guys are wearing, it's just the psychology of what people are wearing. So if people believe something will make them quicker, then there's a likelihood that it will. Okay. And then the converse is also true. So we did the all-in-one kit for Cameroon as well, which you may remember also got banned. And that was going to be like the ultimate. But one of the things we had to think of was, excuse me, rather than it being like an Olympic sprinter's outfit, which would be all in one skin tight, we put on like a second layer of looser fitting shorts onto the football kit, because Olympic sprinters walk out into an athletic stadium and nobody's shouting abuse at them about the size of whatever may or may not be inside their lycra trunks. Whereas, if you were to walk out of Villa Park as an opposition player, then it could be a psychological disadvantage if you've got 40,000 people singing songs about whatever is or isn't between your legs.
Your anatomical pluses or minuses, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So all that stuff plays a big role. And so I think people tend to look at kits just from the aesthetic of it and does it look nice? Would I wear it with a pair of jeans? Whereas not every brand does it, but there definitely is a big focus on it being an advantage to the athletes to wear those kits.
And it's fascinating. As I say, we could probably do another 2 or 3 hour on that, because I'm one of these people that I don't write down any questions. As my mind wanders, I ask a question. So if you think about it, I'm a 35-year-old, 3-year-old child, really, when I start interviewing. So without taking up your whole day, I think we'll park that one there for a moment. But you mentioned there as well, Rob, that you've had a lot of success, or you've been involved with a lot of successful teams. Do you get to sample that success? Like, obviously Italy winning the World Cup in 2006, like, you can't get any bigger than that, really, you know. Do you get to sample that success? Are you part of it? Do you get to meet the people involved? Do you get invited for celebrations? Do you have a little mini replica of the World Cup at home that was given to you by the Italian team? Is there anything like that goes on?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I was disappointed for the World Cup final that I didn't get a ticket for that. And lots of people at the organisation that were much more heavy hitting than me did manage to get tickets. But you know, that's the way of the world. But it's
always the way, yeah,
always the way. But I mean, I can't complain. I was so lucky to have done other stuff. Like my first, when I moved across to Germany, my first business trip was to go to Rome for 3 days and walk around the shops and go as a VIP to a Lazio match.
Excellent.
You know, which was just crazy to get on the plane and think, I'm doing this for a job. Was nuts. I went to a Champions League final as a guest of UEFA for Monaco against Porto. And the prawn sandwiches were exceptional, as you'd expect. In terms of the celebrations and stuff, the only time that happened that I've got a good story about it was we were flying around different countries on one trip to present the World Cup kits to the different federations. So it was like a 3-legged trip where we flew to Tunisia to begin with. Then we came back to Germany to present to Cameroon because they were playing in Hamburg. And then we flew out to Bulgaria the following morning to present to the Bulgarian FA. So the Tunisia thing was a good trip and loads to eat, and we were only there a couple of days. Flew out to Hamburg, and Cameroon were playing not really a charity match, but in Germany they'd done like a TV series that was like Britain's Got Talent, but for footballers. And so the winners would all get to play a game against Cameroon at the Milan Tour at the St. Pauli Stadium.
Wow.
And so we went up there, and with the Cameroon Federation, it was always the way that you present to the key players first. So Song, Matomo, Etu wasn't playing in that one because he was too much of a high flyer already at that stage to be risked against these cloggers. Yeah, some of the guys were there. So we presented them the kit. They were all happy with it. They went and played the game. And then afterwards, it was like, right, let's go out on the piss in Hamburg. So we've gone out to a couple of different places. And then one of the guys that had been called up was playing like second division football in the Hamburg area. So he knew the city really well. And he took
Hamburg isn't famous for anything, anything untoward at all. Sure it isn't.
Yeah,
no.
fairly low-key night out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But he took us to like this local African nightclub where all the African expats would go.
Excellent.
And we've walked in there with the Cameroon national team, and it was just crazy, absolutely crazy. And even I was getting asked for my autograph, and I am clearly not a Cameroonian international footballer.
I think you could have done a job at right back or left back, Rob. I'm 100% certain.
But the nightclub owner came straight across when he realised who was in there. He gave us a bottle of champagne each. Probably didn't usually sell a lot of champagne because he didn't have enough glasses. So by the time he got to me, I'd got like one of his best teacups to drink my champagne out of. And it was quite the night. We ended up rolling into bed about 3 or 4 in the morning. Had to get up an hour later to fly to Bulgaria for the next presentation. Got there absolutely hanging. Quickly got changed in the hotel. Gone down into the room to do the presentation, thinking it was just going to be, a load of suits from the Bulgarian FA. And right in the front row of the presentation was Hristo Stoichkov.
I was just about to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Stoichkov.
Yeah, totally hanging out my arse, standing there, and him and his mates all smoking these cigarettes with so much tar in them you couldn't snap them in half with your bare hands. So yeah, that was heavy going. Definitely. But yeah, no, I've been really, really lucky. England matches and all sorts. Yeah, it's been great.
And I suppose the on it, or the obvious question, I suppose, that I probably should have asked first is, without giving away any trade secrets, what goes into the brief for design of a shirt, and do the clubs have a ton of say, or do the national teams, do they have a massive ton of say, or do they just say traditionally this is what we've got, don't stray too far or stray as far as you want from this? Because as we know, and we're going to take a look at the Aston Villa jersey in a moment, there's a lot of tradition within the Aston Villa jersey, and the further away you stray from that tradition, I suppose, the less likely the greater public are going to potentially like it, unless you do an absolutely fantastic job, which majority of times people do. But what goes into the brief for a football shirt?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it completely varies from brand to brand and club to club, which sounds like a cop-out answer. But if you're Nike working with one of their clubs, you've got the might of Nike, the value of the contract that they've paid. The likes of Nike, Adidas, Puma will usually walk in and talk about science first, because that gets people excited. If it's going to make the players perform better, then straight away you've got an advantage. Different teams will have different levels of input. So if you're an Umbro talking to a Manchester City that have just won the league, you've got a lot less clout than Umbro talking to Blackburn Rovers, for instance. Some clubs like to be very traditional, but then I often refer back to working with Bordeaux, which I think I first started working with them in about 2004, probably. And they were very keen on having 3 shirts, and the home shirt always has that scapulaire on the front, like the chevron. And obviously that always had to be there, but they were open for us to do different artistic versions of that. And then one each of the away and third shirt. One had to look smart with a pair of jeans, and one had to appeal to like a young teen fan. So it gave them like the 3 commercial options and 3 different identities. And it was just a really awesome club to work with, because they got it completely nailed on, that people who want to buy a shirt will usually buy the home shirt. And then with the other 2, you give people a reason to buy one or both.
You mentioned there, Rob, about how well it looks with a pair of jeans. At what stage does it come to pleasing the fan, we shall say? I know we've all got a big bugbear at the moment because of sizing and stuff like that. I know we had stadium fit at Villa last year to try and help, let's say, the likes of me, who should really be fitting snugly into a large short, but struggles with extra large even at this stage. But it always intrigues me what's like, because I know it's important that, the science and everything else of the time is important to the player. But at what stage does the fan become a consideration?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, again, it kind of varies depending on brand. So during my time at Puma, we worked, once we got into the really scientific kits around the 2006 period, it was very much, we'll do exactly what's right for the athletes, and that'll be the right material and the right construction, the right fit. And then we'll use a look-alike material with slightly different properties and a different way of making it. So for the fans, it looks the same to all intents and purposes, but is different and more suited and a different fit. And then we also did a Brit fit as well. So for kitting out the likes of Tottenham and people like that, there was like the replica shirts were a different shape again. Then working at Umbro, it was very much the opinion there that their replica shirts had always been exactly what the players were getting. So there was no player version or replica version, which is nice in a way that it was like, well, you see the England team wearing the kit, or the Ireland team wearing the kit, or Manchester City, and then you buy the exact one that your heroes are wearing. But it kind of felt a bit like a halfway house, where it wasn't ever quite elite performance enough for the athletes, to my opinion. And so there was a bit of a compromise on that. And then, for some of the fans, the product looked great on them, and for others, not so much, depending on the fit. So it is a consideration around the replica stuff, but it's quite hard to please people, really, because there is a real divide between wanting exactly what the players have got, but also wanting something that's realistically suitable for them.
I think we've got to the stage where you need to have a specific type of body to be looking for what the players are wearing.
Yeah.
What do you think of how Kappa have managed the Villa kit over the last few years?
I think it's been interesting to watch. Obviously from a informed but claret and blue tinted spectacles perspective, because Villa is a kit, particularly the home kit, that I've always wanted to design, but would feel a bit like a poison chalice, because it is one of those, like doing the England kit, where if you keep it really traditional, people say, well, it hasn't changed enough. Why would I buy it? You haven't made an effort. And if you change it a bit, everyone complains that it's not traditional. So it would be a difficult one to get right. I think they've done a good job of trying things and looking to tell little stories and bring interesting details into the product. I think the criticism that I'd have with Kappa, and not just on the Villa kit, but with their designs in general, is they just feel a little bit fussy. There's always a little bit too much detail. So like with this one, there's kind of the double layer collar happening. It's a raglan sleeve, so it's cut away across the body instead of just going over the shoulder, which isn't super traditional for Villa. We tend to have a set-in sleeve and a solid thing there. But the way they've done the raglan, it doesn't run right the way up into the collar, so the back comes to the front. And because we have contrast sleeves, you get that little point up there. So you've got points either side and a point at the front, and the stripes that, because some of them are so wide, it actually makes it look really dark. And it'll be interesting to see how that looks when it's wet, if the lighter base color wets out and the whole thing becomes very dark. All eyes on John McGinn for the first game of the season if it's sunny to see how that one plays out. So yeah, it almost feels like a brand that's lacking a bit of design confidence, really. Of like, oh, we don't need all these details. It's almost like apologising for being Kappa, rather than, if you think of when they first started doing those skin tight jerseys and some of the ones they did for Italy and Roma and teams like that, they were just beautiful in their simplicity. And
I suppose I remember some years back when I lost a bit of weight, I bought a Kappa Sampdoria shirt, and it's one of my prized possessions. Unfortunately, I can't get into it at the moment, but I remember when they were announced for Villa, and it was just a worry for me that no one was going to fit into these shorts other than the players.
Yeah.
And I remember they put out this famous tweet that was like, no, they're not skinny fit, but they are.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate thing, because I think they're going to have a couple of kits there now that are going to be iconic for years, and stuff that'll be really remembered, because we've obviously had some magic days of obviously the first year staying up, and then such iconic results last season, and hopefully more of them this season. And it's strange when you look at, like, obviously the pictures come out, and it's when you see them as concept kits and you go, oh no, I don't like that at all. And then all of a sudden it's announced on the day and you see Jack Grealish wearing it, and all of a sudden you go, oh, now that's a game changer. You've seen it on Jack Grealish or John McGinn, and all of a sudden this thing becomes a thing of beauty.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it does, usually when the concept stuff starts to float about and people will ask my opinion, and I try to keep my counsel until I've seen it on a player, because it does make a big difference. As you go through the design process yourself, you start off with obviously doing a sketch. You might illustrate it onto a drawing of an athlete, but it's only once you've got the prototypes in-house and put it on somebody that it really starts to kind of come to life. But like you say, I think there's definitely an opportunity there for, if that's the right silhouette for the players, if that's the shirt that they are happy to wear and is giving them the best performance conditions, perfect. But I mean, even just looking at the image that's up on the screen there now, if there was a straight line between the hem and under the arm, instead of it coming right in like that, it would fit people great. It's as simple as that.
You've nailed one of my concerns. My first concern was completely selfish in the fact that I have a body shape like a potato. There's lumps and hollows and everything in it, and straight lines, pinstripes are the enemy of the portly gentleman. So like, if I'm putting that, like, you can even see it in the photograph there we have, that's on a mannequin, and you can still see the lines bubble and move and everything like that. Yeah. Wait till you see it on me; it'll be like a roadmap. But
totally.
You know, but overall, I don't mind the shirt. I like it. You know what I actually like? I like about it is the contrast just underneath the sleeve. You can see that little bit of it's not fully blue all the way around, and I don't know why I like it. But as I look at it, I go, I think that it looks nice, and I don't know why, because I'm very much a traditionalist with the shirt. Claret body, blue sleeves, don't mess around with it, maybe put a collar on it, I don't know, but I really like that, and I don't know why. I've absolutely no idea why. And other little details I like on the new shirts that we've been getting for the last couple of years is the little line on the back of the on the back of the collar, little things like that. But
I think the way they've executed the badge as well is beautiful.
That was my next question. The embossed badge, the rubberized kind of. Obviously, it would have been all embroidered before. What's the take on that? Is that
good? So I mean, obviously from a player perspective, it's a lot more comfortable to not have a million embroidery stitches poking through the shirt onto your chest. Not such an issue with how high up the badge is on these ones, but on some of the other kits that we would have had in the past where it was a bit lower, you can imagine players having to sign kind of indemnity forms against having their nipples completely eradicated by the amount of embroidery in a crest like that. Then you get the weight benefit of it as well, with it being lighter than all those stitches. And then in terms of making them, I mean, that crest there would be no cheap thing for the brand to buy and apply to a shirt. You'd be looking at, they're probably $1 each, those badges, just to buy executed like that from their vendor. That's a high value addition to the shirt, which is why, and something that I'd kind of looked at before. When you look at the kids' shirts, or certainly the infants ones, they haven't got that detail on it. It's all just print straight on the front of the shirt, which saves a fair bit of money when you're trying to keep the price down on the kiddie stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mentioned to you just beforehand as well, just off camera, and I'm just going to remove that shirt there for a moment. You're not the only kit designer in the room, Rob. You're with Irish. You're with the AVFC Lions royalty here in the form of Paddy, and he designed a shirt for the Irish Lions Club. And it was a shirt. Paddy, I'll let you. What am I doing talking about it? Let you talk about the thing. Sorry. Tell us, while I get ready here and I try and get a picture up of it here of our fearless leader and his brother holding the shirt.
So basically, we design most years we do a shirt, and we have a charity partner on our shirt. You'll see from the picture Neil puts up in a second. Our charity partner was the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland. We don't have I suppose that is our dementia society here in Ireland. So as you can see, we sent the shirt to Dean and his brother there, who unfortunately lost his father last year, who was suffering from dementia for many years. It was COVID that took him in the end, unfortunately. God rest him. As we all know, there's some great tributes to him at Villa Park. So that was just our little tribute to him. But the shirt itself, I'm going to ask you a question now. Can you see any similarities in any other shirt over the years?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, we've definitely used those colours before. But yeah, I think I would say that there's a bit of inspiration there from the Stan Collymore era away shirt, would be a guess. I can see the checks in there, which would have been the Randy Lerner era. With the checkerboard being introduced, and maybe the way it's diagonal, some sort of sash thing, which I think was that like Ian Taylor era AST computers away kit as well.
Yeah, a lot going on there. What inspired me first was actually a USA kit from about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Where they had those lines coming across, and then the decision to change them to claret and blue, and then if you see the little detail, I can't claim any of those because that's done by our graphic designer James in the Leinster lines. But we get great fun out of making these each year. You know, as you can see, there's Tony Daly on screen.
That's what it looks like on. Yeah.
Fun fact: my dad was Tony Daly's milkman, and my sister did the flowers for his wedding.
Paddy sits close to him in Villa Park.
Well, I don't sit close to him. When I don't go, he sits in my seat.
Leave him a note next time. Ask him if he remembers my dad.
Will do. But like it looks, when you see someone with a physique like Tony Daly, I think a short just looks magic when you put it on, as opposed to just holding it. And that's the discussion we had a while ago. And I think you only see the full benefit of a short when it goes on to someone. It's just a bugbear of mine that the fans don't get that full experience anymore, because, you know, especially when we get a bit older and things start to droop. Speaking from my own experience, that the belly gets in the way when you're putting on one of these shorts. And you know, I look forward to maybe our esteemed leader being, as we know, one of the owners of Adidas. So maybe we look forward to seeing an Adidas kit in the future. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think if we were to be with Adidas or somebody, I think it would be an interesting one, because obviously Mr. Sawiris holds a 3% stake in the business, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he's the single biggest individual shareholder in the company. But I don't know how much clout that would have in terms of the way we would be managed on a day-to-day basis by a brand like Adidas. And I think we would probably end up in the same bucket as the likes of Leicester and Leeds with, you know, here's your kit. I was talking to somebody about it the other day, and I think for where we are as a club right now, it'd be interesting to be working with a brand that could pay us the right amount of money to help with the FFP side of things, but that would also treat us with a little bit more kind of VIP treatment, I guess, that I don't think we would get with a Nike or Adidas at the moment, probably not even from a Puma, to be honest. I think the other thing with Adidas is I did see a couple of mock-ups recently as well, where people had done Adidas shirts in the Villa colours, and they just look like West Ham kits. And I think it's just because we've never had Adidas before and they have. But I saw them and was like, oh, it's just a West Ham shirt.
Wash out your mouth. Wash out your mouth.
But
I think Adidas is one of the only manufacturers that we haven't had at this stage.
Yeah,
probably. You come back from the early 90s, we've had some really obscure ones as well that nobody else has had.
Yeah, totally. Unless you started getting into some of these continental ones like Yako and, you know, whoever was kitting out North Macedonia at the Euros and that. But yeah, I'd like to see another comeback for Hummel. I think that they do a really nice job right now with what they've done with Everton. I thought the Danish national team kit looked great. And I think we would be a prestige club for them, but they're also a brand that, knowing some of the people that work there, they've got a lot going on at the moment, and they're pushing themselves in the right direction, like Puma were 20 years ago. So yeah, I think it would be interesting to be at the front of that, perhaps be there, you know, their Cameroon or Italy as they were to Puma back in the day.
I know Neil isn't a big fan of the chevron on the short, but I think there's something iconic about it. It's funny you mentioned that about Adidas, because, you know, I'm a bit of a Celtic fan myself, and they've just brought out this away kit, and I've just been scratching my head going, has a 2-year-old just drawn this with crayons and they've put it together? Because it baffles me that what they get away with. And it's like, you know, they did the Blues a few years ago, but there was about 7 or 8 clubs around Europe with the exact same design as the Blues home shirt, just a different badge and a different sponsor on the front. Yeah,
I mean, because certainly the way that it works. I mean, I last designed a professional kit 7 years ago now, but the way that it was always aimed whilst I was designing kits was, it was really a platform, obviously, to market the brand on the bigger clubs, but then also to sell teamwear to Sunday League teams, because there's huge money in that. So with the likes of, you know, the Blues wearing Adidas or Nike kit,
Sunday League teams,
Yeah, exactly. And there's nobody sitting at Nike or Adidas headquarters working on a Blues kit. I could 99.9% guarantee that, even to the extent of, because you have different types of deals where obviously the big clubs get paid millions and they get a certain amount of free kit, which they very rarely meet the monetary value of that. Some clubs will get just free kit. Other clubs will just get it at a reduced rate. So with the likes of the Birmingham Adidas deal, they may have received a little bit of money for it, probably just got a certain amount of stuff free. But yeah, I mean, if you think of the amount of shirts that Adidas, Nike sell with a Bayern Munich badge or Real Madrid or whoever else you want to list off, Chelsea, whatever, they're not going to pay somebody to sit there putting that horrible badge on the front of a bit of royal blue polyester, are they? Waste of time.
Use off camera as well, Rob. You mentioned that you guys in the Spark Academy that you run courses on how to design kits and things like that as well, which I think is absolutely fantastic. But there's also within the Kelly family, again, there's also a budding shirt designer on her way up through the ranks, I'm sure, as well. And we're going to get you to have a little look at this. You've done a shirt that Sergio Aguero is famous for wearing as well, and Paddy's niece Lucy has done a shirt that Sergio Aguero is famous for wearing as well. And let's just take a look at it here. So, Paddy, I'll let you describe this one as well, because obviously it's close to your heart.
Close to my heart, other than the fact that it's Manchester City, of course. But during lockdown, they did a shirt design competition for children. So my 10-year-old niece, as she was at the time, designed this shirt, which went through a voting process on their social media channels, and eventually led to her winning the competition and receiving the video from Sergio Aguero with him wearing her short, which was a bit of a shock. Bear in mind that nearly all of my family are Man City. I thankfully escaped very early on and decided against it. But unfortunately for Lucy, she's come with a time where they're doing pretty well, so she had no escape. Yeah. But just wondering what you think of that. And I know when it was put up as the winning design, nearly, I'd say 99% of the comments underneath were, why aren't we wearing this shirt?
Yeah, no, it does. Looks good. It feels very Puma. It's very on brand for the club. Is that her sketch in the frame as well?
No, that was the Puma sketch of.
Oh, okay.
If
she's drawn that at 10. Well, we need to get her into the academy sharpish. But no, it's a good looking kit. It feels right for the club, right for the brand that she's designed it for. Because they are definitely one of those clubs where you can do a little bit more with it. That's certainly nicer than that Paisley effort that they've been wearing, and that's for sure. I'm no fan of that. She's done a great job. I can see why she won with that. I mean, if there's plenty of fun to be had working in this industry, so yeah, maybe Uncle Paddy will get her enrolled on the course.
You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were given a template to basically draw their own sketch, and then obviously Puma or Manchester City enhanced it a bit for that photo, and then Puma obviously went ahead with the design.
Yeah.
But it was funny to watch all the comments underneath. We're wearing this rag at the moment. Why can't we make this one?
Yeah.
And funnily enough, the hawkers from the Far East were making up mock-ups of it and selling it all over Christmas.
No, really?
So my whole while Lucy got one from Manchester City as a prize, my whole family were able to buy them from China or one of those sites.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, royalties. I'm sure Lucy's getting all the royalties for those as well.
I'm sure she is.
Sure yeah, absolutely.
Probably kids her age that are making them.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Guys, Rob, thank you so much for popping on. You know, I really enjoyed
Okay.
that. There's, as I said, we could have stayed here for another hour or two. The technology of shirts and all, I suppose all the different kind of mechanisms that you've come across in your time would be one for a completely different podcast. And
Yeah.
I might actually catch you for another one of those later on, maybe in the year, because it's super interesting. Thank you so much for popping on. Do you want to just maybe, I know you mentioned the Spark Design Academy as well. Do you want to give us maybe a few more details on that before you finish up? Because I think it sounds like an absolutely brilliant thing that, you know, kids that were interested in this get into it, and maybe, you know, you don't need to have a full graphic design course behind you. You know, it's all about creativity and getting that creative spark at any age, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we set up Spark Design Academy. So we've got a design agency, my business partner and I, and he was design director of football at Nike. So he did the Brazil World Cup winning kit in 2002. So just to kind of test the waters, really, we made the first course football kit design to be something unique, and the response has been amazing from, I think, our youngest students about 13, and we've even got one guy has been through the course who already had 20 years experience designing kits for smaller brands, because he wanted to know a little bit more about how it had been done at the bigger brands and the more prestigious clubs. So yeah, it takes through the whole process of how you do your research, how you go about creating concepts, looking for new materials, what you have to take into account when you're presenting that, whether it's to a federation or an athlete or whoever it might be. Christo Stoichkov with a hangover.
Those professional tips.
Yeah, exactly. And it just covers all of that. And so we've got two versions of the course. One that really is more for people that have got a firm focus on doing it for a career, and perhaps, you know, already are maybe doing GCSE, A level, or a degree, or above, within kind of art and design or fashion. And then we launched another one a few weeks ago called the Collector's Edition, which contains a lot of the same type of information, but is more just for people who love football shirts. So that one is, I know it's like 60-70% cheaper than the big one, because it doesn't include the professional stuff that you'd need. But it means that if you wanted to go and sit down the pub and talk about football shirts, you'd definitely be the smartest guy in the conversation, because it does talk through the technologies and some of those insights into how and why teams end up wearing what they do, why when people see great concept kits online and ask why couldn't that be the kit, you know, I can look at it as a professional and say, well, because the retail price on it would be about 350 quid by the time you've matched up all those little patterns across all the different seams and stuff. So yeah, we've got that, and we're going to continue growing out into. We've launched a presentation course designed for sportswear and fashion as well, and we're going to continue growing that. So for anybody really who, like I say, is anything up to the early or mid stages of their career and is wanting to work within sport or fashion, then yeah, there's going to be a range of courses for people at sparkdesignacademy.com.
Great stuff. I have two final questions for you.
Yeah.
Very quick ones. What is the favorite shirt you've ever designed, and what is your favorite ever Villa shirt?
Ooh, good question. Favorite one I've designed would be probably the Italy away shirt for 2006, which they didn't win the World Cup in, but I just loved how it looked. And people often ask me why the home shirt had like the dark blue markings under the arm here. And for every team that we kitted out of the World Cup, we wanted something that expressed their national team and what their character was. So, you know, some countries had eagles and things on, or lions or whatever. And the Italian team, we were like, well, they're superheroes. You know, you look at the likes of Vieri and Cannavaro and those guys. So the home shirt was the superhero outfit, and the dark coloration on the shirt and the shorts was to kind of mimic what you'd get in a comic book where somebody's running fast and you get the lines kind of coming off the body. But then the away shirt was more like the Clark Kent, Peter Parker type of thing, where it's literally like a white V-neck T-shirt over the top of the home kit.
Blue, yeah.
So and a lot of people had never noticed that it was just essentially the home kit with a white T-shirt over the top of it. So I just thought it looked really smart on the players, looked smart with jeans, and it was a nice story. And it also links nicely to the claret and blue training wear that all the staff were wearing at the World Cup as well, which obviously was a coincidence that I'm a Villa fan and Marcello Lippi was wearing claret and blue at the World Cup.
Just like West Ham, we've won the World Cup too.
Yeah, exactly. And then favourite Villa kit. It's a difficult one because you always tend to lean towards ones that are more meaningful to you, I guess. I mean, I did love that, the Reebok Collymore away one with the sky and the claret on it, because it just felt really new and fresh, and it still looks really new and fresh, but it still felt like a Villa kit. Probably helped with like the colour of the sponsor and whatever else, but I just thought that was a really, really nice jersey. My favourite was probably the 87-88 Hummel one, because that was the first shirt that I had. When my kit design career began, Mum and Dad bought it me for Christmas, and within 3 days I'd drawn a number 8 on the back of it with a marker. Destiny written in the stars.
Written in the stars is right. And that's actually interesting that you say there about it being your first kit and that you hold it very sentimentally close to your heart as well. For any Villa fans listening here, you might know Tom Julian, formerly of the Villa View. He just said on Twitter recently that he was going to purchase a kit for a kid of maybe some of a family who maybe couldn't afford it, because he remembers how much his first Villa kit got him to love Villa and support Villa and be proud of Villa. And I think there's been 14, 15, I actually don't know what number, but there's been quite a lot of people, us here included, that have wrote in and said we'll buy a kit as well, for somebody who maybe wants one and can't afford it, because it's so important. The kit is the emblem, the kit is it's the tribal colours, it's the uniform, the war outfit, whatever you want to call it, that's the one that when you wear your first football kit, you love it. My very first football kit was the 94 Muller shirt. It was treble XL. It was the only one in Limerick that I could get here in Ireland at the time. I'm not a particularly tall guy. I wasn't a particularly tall kid. I went into school, the sleeves were down around here, and it was a short sleeves. It was like a dress. I didn't care because Paul McGrath wore it and had a Muller in the front. And to this day, it still is huge on me as well, to this day. But, it's like that got me really tied down to Aston Villa. And when I was inside in school and when I was wearing it, and even because it was just so freakishly, cartoonishly big, and people were slagging me, I didn't care. It made me want to support Villa even more. And I know there's tons of kids out there that are in the same boat, that they will latch on, they will become Villa fans for life. But maybe what's kind of tying them back at the moment is they've no livery, they have nothing that they can put on that can kind of truly express that, yes, I do like this team. So Tom Julian, top notch to him, fair play to him. And as I say, I don't know what he has, how many he's up to at this time, but we, as I say, fantastic idea. And it's just interesting to hear you say that your first kit was one that you hold very close to your heart as well, just like the two of us here too.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So, as you mentioned, anybody out there that's interested in the shirt design course that Rob and the guys at Spark Academy are running, it's the sparkdesignacademy.com. You'll be able to find any information for it there as well. You'll also be able to find any information. It's there. It's on Rob's Twitter as well. So it's at real_Rob_Warner. You'll find Rob there as well, and any information for the Spark Academy there too. Thank you so much, Rob, for popping on. As I say, I went through my disclaimer and I stopped myself at the start because I knew I wouldn't be able to keep this to 15-20 minutes, and I didn't. But so I'm glad I didn't tell you lies in our first time we ever met. So but thanks so much for popping on. Paddy, as always, thanks a million. You can catch Paddy on @VillaPaddy. You can catch me here on @LoveMcGrathPod. We're getting close to the start of the season, and I'm getting that tingly feeling about the 21st when we are is the 21st, isn't it? When we play our first.
Yeah.
It's tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. It's tomorrow when we play our first preseason game. I'm going to be parked in front of the stream for that as well. Great job that the club have done as well, I think, in getting all the preseason games streamed. Really looking forward to it. Really built on what they did with the youth games last year, and it's good to see that bit of progressivism coming from the media department, I suppose, with the club as well. Yeah, we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. It's nearly back to the season again, and hopefully we've got a couple of more signings. So once again, thanks so much, Rob, for popping on. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Yeah, up the Villa.
The Villa.
So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?